I started embracing my body hair in 2019 when I created the Lavender Project. And in that project, which I call the self-liberating self-photography project, I created this lavender colored dress that showed my chest hair for the first time. I started really being more confident about my body hair, working on my self-esteem, using self-affirmations. When I was young, I was always very insecure and I hated my appearance because I was hairy. And so I kind of started to notice that pattern. Over the years, it kept being the same thing. And I became tired of hating my body hair and hating my body and, waxing, shaving, doing electrolysis, different things that were causing me to have even more body hair. And so that's when I kind of realized that, this hate towards my body hair does not come from me. I wasn't born hating my body hair. So that's when I decided to work on myself and I realized that this hate came from society. I only hated that body hair on my body because I'm a woman and I was taught to remove it even though women have body hair. As I was growing up, I was starting to use self-affirmations, which was like a technique that my mother had showed me. So I was always complimenting myself, complimenting my body hair. And the more I was doing that, I started to feel more comfortable with it. When I would go to my esthetician and remove part of my body hair and part of my chest hair, I started to feel like I wasn't myself anymore when I wasn't seeing my chest hair. So that's when I knew that I had successfully started to embrace my body hair. And that's when I started to go out with it and challenge myself. So that's when I started to wear V-neck tops where we could see my chest hair or wearing shorts where we could see my leg hairs. I started to feel more confident about my body hair, especially when I discovered the body hair movement, January in the UK, and the body hair movement here in Montreal called Mes Poils. At that time, when I collaborated with Mes Poils, I stopped being afraid to go out with my body hair. When I posted the Lavender Project, the self-photography project on social media, on Instagram, that's when I got so many comments, so many really positive comments of women sharing that they thought they were alone. They thought they were the only women in the world with chest hair or that were very hairy. And so we connected, a lot of women and I connected in that way. And I was able to have this discussion about body hair and femininity because it's, body hair is a big taboo. And it's important to kind of question these things because all women have body hair. And depending on where you're from, you could have more than others. Through the Lavender Project, I thought it was interesting to start this conversation online about femininity and body hair. When I became a body hair activist, after seeing so much positive comments and I got a lot of DMs from women from all over the world sharing their experience with their body hair, I knew that it was something important because I myself wasn't seeing that kind of representation. So I continued on social media to post pictures of my body hair and create content around it to kind of help women remove that shame and feel more comfortable with their natural body. After that, I decided as a visual artist to also paint women that are hairy and create this fictional tribe inspired by my own Ivorian tribe of women that are very hairy. And so because in the art world I wasn't also seeing that kind of representation, I wanted to create that. So basically I'm very hairy because of genetics, and it's on my dad's side, my Ivorian side, because I'm half Haitian, half Ivorian. And on my Ivorian side, in my tribe, Wet, the women are very hairy. And back in the day, it was seen as something very beautiful, feminine on the woman's body. It was a sign of maturity and that she was fertile. Because of colonization, these things started to change and more women started to be ashamed of their body hair. And so I wanted to create through my art a fictional tribe of women that embrace their body hair and that wear it with pride. So when it comes to dating, I think it's an interesting topic when it comes to being a hairy woman. Before I became a body hair activist, I would always cover my body hair and my chest hair. I would hide it. It would be the biggest secret. And I would only reveal it to a man I was talking to once I felt comfortable. And so I remember there was this dude, I wasn't into him, but he was into me. And I revealed my secret to him. I was like, you know what? I have chest hair. And he was like, I don't care. I like you, blah, blah, blah. So I was surprised. And I got older and I matched with this guy on a dating app. And that was before I became a body hair activist. And he would see some of my body hair and he thought it was cute. And I was just like, okay, I wasn't even ready to tell him that I had chest hair and I was very hairy. And so because I became very comfortable with him and I actually started to like him, I was like, I revealed it to him and he was totally fine with it. And we were dating while I wasn't a body hair activist and even when I became a body hair activist, and he was completely comfortable and okay with it. So I was very, very surprised because I didn't know, if there were men out there that were okay with that or not. In my experience, I dated guys that were comfortable with the fact that I was hairy and even hairier than them. So I was surprised. I knew that it wasn't impossible to find a guy that was okay with it. But in my experience, I've actually found guys that were totally comfortable with it or thought it was beautiful. But once I became a body hair activist, I did discover the fetish community. There's a group of men who are, who fetishize hairy women. And it is very uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable situation for me. I don't date guys that have a fetish for hairy women because I don't like being objectified, and I want someone to be with me because they like me for who I am. And yes, they could find my body hair beautiful, but not to have an unusual obsession with it. And so, yeah, so that's what I discovered. So there's this whole community of men who love hairy women and who are looking for a hairy wife. So my advice to someone who's struggling to embrace their body hair is take your time. First of all, you have to be tired of hating your body hair. That's the only way you could break free from that. And for me, I became very tired of hating myself, hating my appearance, hating my body hair. I became tired of seeing more body hair grow when I'm removing it. So I started to really wake up from that, that illusion that women don't have body hair and shouldn't have body hair. And once I did that, that's when I started to work on myself. So I started to use self-affirmation. I slowly started to go out with, clothes that show my body hair, to slowly start embracing it. But the first thing is to really be comfortable with your body hair, even in your own house. Once you're comfortable with it, once you see your body and you're thinking, I'm looking beautiful, I don't think my body hair is ugly anymore, all these things, that's when you could also go out with it and slowly doing that. And so obviously people are gonna comment or maybe look or stare, etc., but for me, when that happens, I'm not offended. I just keep going to my destination. I'm comfortable in my body, so I don't need anybody else's validation. So that would be my advice to you. So to take your time and to be at a level where you personally feel comfortable with your body hair. Because, body hair is natural. It's there to protect our skin. It's there to prevent bacteria from entering our pores. It has different functions depending on where it is. So it's very important to know that as well, and to not feel that because society tells you something is ugly that you should believe it. It's something that I also like to say is redefine beauty for yourself. When we only consume, images from the media and things like that are only showing one kind of representation, we automatically start believing that our appearance is undesirable, which is untrue. And so in order to redefine beauty for yourself, that means looking at yourself and seeing the beautiful things that make you unique, and to accept that. That's your body, that's you. And to really just be happy with that because diversity is beautiful. We don't all want people to be the same like robots. It's beautiful to see different people, different faces, different looks when you go outside as well. So it's really something that we need to embrace. And what's also fun is when the historical or where these things come from, whether it's your nose, if it's like your grandmother had the same nose, or for example, my body hair comes from my ancestors. So this is things that I'm proud of now. It's not something that I'm ashamed of. Those physical traits that I have a story, and that's what makes it beautiful as well. So yeah, so I'm hairy because of genetics and because the women in my Wet tribe, which is from Ivory Coast, were very, very hairy. And so I'm hairy. So in 2019, I created the Lavender Project, and that's when I kind of accepted my chest hair, but I accepted like all of my body hair. Like I stopped shaving in 2020. And in 2020 is when I collaborated with a body hair movement here in Montreal called Mes Poils. And I kind of like challenged myself to go out with my body hair. And that's when I started to feel more comfortable. Like during the summer, I was going out with short shorts, biking in short shorts and not being afraid that people would see my body hair because it's part of my body and I like it. And so that's when I kind of fully embraced my body hair in 2020. When I was 11 years old is when I noticed that I had chest hair. Though I didn't feel anything about it, I didn't feel hate or love, just nothing. I just felt, okay, I have chest hair. And I remember removing it for my graduation. I remember there was a particular moment in elementary school where my friends had seen this hair on my stomach and had done like this shocking reaction. They were so shocked by it. And I think that's when I started to question, like, oh, am I not supposed to have hair here? Like, I didn't know, but I had never questioned, that. I remember just thinking, I'm a woman, I should remove my body hair. I never knew why. It was something I was taught, but I thought, okay, they're having this shocking reaction. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have it. And then once I got to high school, I was really scared. I was always hiding my body hair, making sure I was never, I wouldn't even go swimming because I didn't want people to see that I had body hair, or I didn't want to go through the process of removing my body hair because I would get so many ingrown hairs, and it was just a horrible situation. And so I wouldn't go swimming anymore. I would always wear clothes that were covering, or I would shave part of the body hair if we would see it. So I would go through so many things just to make sure that nobody would see the body hair. But I remember girls being teased for their body hair. There was this girl that was always being mocked because she had hairy legs. There was this girl that was being mocked and insulted because she had hairy arms. So I didn't want to be teased in high school. I was making sure that my body hair was always hidden. And I remember there was a moment where I stopped removing the hair on my face, and my friends had seen it and were like, oh, look, Esther has sideburns. And they all came to check. And so I started removing it again because I didn't want that kind of attention. Like, I was just, I was tired of cutting it all the time. But then the moment I stopped cutting it, I was getting a type of attention that I didn't want, and that was making me uncomfortable and scared. So then I remember a moment where I was wearing a top, and I think since I was sitting, my friend was standing and could see that I had chest hair. And I remember he had asked, oh, do you think it's possible that women have chest hair? And I just kept quiet because I was so scared that he would say it's me. And I just kept quiet. And I remember a friend beside me was like, no, that's not possible. And I just kept quiet. I was so scared. I didn't want him to say that it was me, that I had chest hair. So I was just keeping quiet, not saying anything, and hoping that this conversation would end. Once I got to college, that's when I started to question that, because I was always hearing, you have to suffer to be beautiful. That's what my mom and my aunt were saying. So I started being annoyed of that phrase. I was like, why do I have to suffer just to be beautiful? And I had created a painting around that subject because I was so tired of suffering or having to put my body through various procedures just to be hairless, just to fit in that box. And then once I got to university, being surrounded by artists as an artist had really helped me to see different kinds of people expressing themselves in various ways through their hairstyles, through the garments they wear. And so I started to kind of question who I was, my identity. And, that's when later on I created the Lavender Project. I wanted to create a project that talked about this challenge, this taboo. And so I created that project to have a conversation with people, and also to show that I had chest hair and I was no longer ashamed of it. So because I embraced it, I didn't want to tell all my friends, hey, by the way, I'm hairy, because nobody knew that I was hairy except like my mom and like certain family members. And so once I created that project, I said, I'm going to post it on social media. And if my friends see it and whoever sees it, they'll be able to question themselves at home without me seeing their reaction, So when I posted that, I remember being so nervous. When I posted those pictures, I remember being so nervous. But I got so many positive comments. Of course, there's always some negative comments, people that are judgmental or people that don't really question why they do certain things. What I really loved about like the types of reaction I was getting was obviously the messages from women around the world, but really also of women sharing that now because they had seen my pictures and my content, they felt more comfortable with their body hair. There were some women that weren't very hairy, or were hairy, but because of my content, they didn't feel shame anymore. They didn't feel the pressure of shaving right away because now their hair is growing. They didn't feel that pressure. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted women to feel more comfortable with their body hair, or also to not even feel that anxiety, because I remember I used to feel that. I remember I had a fashion show and I forgot to shave my legs. That was before 2019. I had this fashion show and I remember going to the bathroom and removing all my it was crazy. I remember going to the bathroom and removing all the hair on my legs. It was horrible. It was like a 30-minute process just to go to the fashion show without hairy legs. So I remember that fear, that intense fear that I used to feel when 2 hairs grew out, or so scared that someone would see it. And so now I don't feel that anymore. And I was so glad to have so many messages of women saying to me that they don't feel that anymore either. They don't feel that fear, they don't feel that shame. Like now they're able to go out with their body hair. Some women were sending me videos of them going out with their body hair or going to the beach with their body hair. So I was so happy for them, because I remember being in that very dark place of self-hatred, you know, that consumes you. And finally, when I made that decision for myself to just embrace myself, embrace the fact that I'm a hairy woman, that's when I started to be happier and freer. I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and I went to like predominantly white schools, so I was surrounded by white people, and I was not seeing anybody that was hairy. So that kind of affected me in the way that I viewed my body. I became very insecure about my appearance, about my hairiness. I'm known as Queen Essie. My full name is Esther Calixte Bea. I'm half Haitian and half Ivorian, but I'm born in Canada.